Good morning, trading world. It is March 24th, 2022, 8:33 a.m. I am running very much behind this morning. Had an emergency I had to run out for this morning. So let's get to it. All right. The title for today's outlook. VIX is at a lull as consolidation continues. There are a few things to watch here. I've given you a game plan for watching the bonds versus rates. Don't expect the VIX to raise at the first sign of a down move here. If you've seen a scary movie a couple times, you may not jump at the scary parts anymore because you've seen it. You expect it. This is the VIX right now. For me to get the jump on trouble, watch the dollar, ticker symbol $DXY, along with the bonds, /ZB, along with rates, mainly the TNX, to replace the lag that is in the VIX right now. Give me a moment. Let me bring up the key levels for today. All right, here we go with the key levels of the day, starting on the resistance side. Jack resistance is 446 through 447 area. Queen resistance is going to be the 448 through 449 area. And king resistance is going to be 450 through 454 area. On the support side, Jack support starts at 445 down to 444 area. Queen support is the 443 to 442 area, all the way down to the king support, which is at the 440 all the way down to 437 area. Now, the main thesis for today is bearish, closing below the 443.80 with a projected low or target of 443 all the way down to 437, somewhere in between there. The alternate thesis for today is bullish, closing above the 443.80 area with a projected high or target somewhere between 449 and 454. I wouldn't be surprised at the alternate thesis today. The time frame that is in control right now is the 4-hour, as the daily is now in overbought territory. Even though the daily is in overbought territory, right now the weekly is starting to make a move. It's waking up. But the only thing is we need to see whether it wakes up out of its oversold territory just enough to turn around and go back, or whether we continue. That is what we'll find out in the next couple of days as they play out. The current channel we're in is 425 all the way down to 453, with the minor channel being 443 to 453. As a side note, because of where internals ended yesterday, it's hard for me to see another bad all-down day today. Looking for a chop and slop or a back and forth today. With that being said, let me get the scenarios for the day up. All right, we have our first scenario, which is our range day structure. We could look to set a decision area, upper boundary around the jack or queen resistance area before chopping lower, then chopping higher, and then at some point a fall testing the lower boundary. Again, range days are extremely hard to map out. So you're really dependent on your indicators, whether it's the RSI, whether it's the MACD, stochastics, whatever it may be. you want to look for a lot of convergence today with those indicators. When you see reverses in the indicators, look for that to follow in price action. That is the first and highest probability of today, range day. Let's take a look at the next scenario. Alright, the next scenario is our rounded reversal day type structure. We could get a continued push lower toward the Jack or Queen support area and find midday chop around either the Queen or King support area before spending the same amount of energy we use coming down to go back up the second half of the day. There's also a vice versa scenario for this, which would look pretty much like this, where we would start up and continue up with a continued push higher toward the Queen or King resistance area before finding midday chop, and then the second half of the day coming down with the same amount of force. That is the second scenario. And let me bring up the last scenario. Alright, our last scenario is the trend day up, which means we open gap up, start with a fade back toward the previous close, represented by the blue line. We find support on or before the previous close, then begin our uptrend for the morning. We find our midday chop around either a possible Queen or King, should be resistance area. And the second half of the day usually starts with a head fake and then a fade going into the close. Usually. There's a lot to say about the ending of the day, but it's a model as far as how most of them play out. Not all, but a good number. There is a vice versa for this as well, but a lot would have to happen. We would have to have a pretty huge sell-off coming in before the cash open, where if we could get below here and then we try to come back, we could have a very mild trend day down, which would look something like that. But like I said, a lot would have to happen. So these are the scenarios for today. Again, because of how internals ended the day, it's hard for me to see a lot of another straight down day, even though when we're playing around in a gap, things can kind of go crazy. You never know which way, because I have this thing about calling markets rational and irrational. And anytime there is a gap, that is a irrational moment for the market. And until that gap fills, we remain in a irrational state, which means things could look crazy. You see certain things on the chart, indicators get ignored or do something wacky. All of these things usually happen in what I call the irrational moments, which take place while the market is in these gapped states. So be very careful about that. As a trader, it is always important that you know your risk. Please know and understand your risk with each position that you take. As always, wishing you a positive trading day. Have a great one.